Vernors, 100% Vernors. That's what I would miss if I moved out of Michigan. Okay. All right, guys, I was talking with friends that had moved out of state through the years, and we kind of got onto the topic of what they missed the most about leaving Michigan. So I called a couple of them, and here are the 25 things that people that have left Michigan miss the most. And there really is just something about Michigan that sticks with you, from the first time you dip your toes into the Great Lakes to the many traditions and tastes that define life here. The Mitten State carves out a place in your heart. Truly it does. If you've been here, you know. It's a place of stunning natural beauty, tight-knit communities, and really quirky local culture. And even if we grumble about like the icy winters and the tire-eating potholes, moving away has a way of turning those complaints into pretty much nostalgia. So former residents often find themselves homesick for all the little things that make Michigan feel like home. For those still lucky enough to call Michigan home, take a moment to cherish these 25 iconic aspects of the Great Lakes state. Now, before we get on, first, like the video so more people can see it. Hopefully you're finding this informational and also maybe a little funny or quirky, right? Second, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. My name is Mike Perna. I am a local real estate agent here in Metro Detroit. I drop videos each and every week about things to do, about local communities, about festivals and fairs, pretty much anything real estate related as well. There are a lot of tips and tricks here if you're thinking about buying a home or selling a home. And if you are thinking about buying a home or selling your home, I would be honored to get the call to help you as your real estate agent. Scope out some of our buyer videos and our seller videos. I've got one on 39 mistakes that sellers make to avoid, one on the 44 mistakes that home buyers commonly make that I see. At the very minimum, at least watch those and keep those in your back pocket for when you are ready. Phone number's on the screen. Give me a call or set up a time on my calendar that works best for you and your family to have a chat about your next real estate move. Also, don't forget to scope out our reviews. Don't forget to scope out our reviews. Hopefully my editor put those on the screen already. And also comment below if you've left Michigan, anything and everything you miss about Michigan. And comment on one of the things that you don't miss that Michigan has that you're glad that where you're at now does not have. I would love to get some good comments and some good dialogue going there. Okay, here we go. So number one, the Great Lakes and sandy beaches. So we have more freshwater coastline than any other state in the union. And if you string it out, it would actually run all the way from Maine to Florida. So imagine summer weekends filled with sunshine and soft sand between your toes, and Michigan's Great Lakes shoreline has miles and miles and miles of beaches and freshwater horizons that are nothing short of magical, especially up north Michigan, right? So we often take for granted that we could watch the sun dip below Lake Michigan, paint the sky in pinks and oranges, or skip stones on the calm morning waters of Lake Huron. Leave Michigan and you realize how special our freshwater oceans really are. No ocean salt or jellyfish to worry about, no sharks, no Loch Ness Monster, none of that, just clear waves and dune-backed beaches. And it's not just the big lakes. Countless inland lakes provide their own kind of paradise. With about 11,000 inland lakes across the state of Michigan, there is always a cozy lakeshore to discover. And can any other state give you that? Minnesota tries, but you know, I'll give it A for effort, D for result. If you're from Minnesota, I am so sorry. From Metro Detroit, it's a super quick drive to spots like Kensington Metro Park or Stony Creek to find a little beach escape like just in one day. On a scorching July day, nothing compares to plunging into the cool, crisp waters of Lake Michigan or tubing behind a friend's boat over on Orchard Lake or Commerce Lake. Those summer beach days with the smell of the sunscreen and barbecue in the air is something you're gonna learn for when you're landlocked somewhere else. Number two, weekend road trips up north. 2 words, say them to any Michigander and watch their eyes light up. Up north. And it's more than a direction on a map, it is a way of life. So every Friday in the summer, cars pack up with camping gear or kayak racks or bike racks or beach attire, and they head up north on I-75 chasing that tranquil getaway. Whether you're winding along the M22 with Lake Michigan glistening beside you, or you're cruising through tree-lined roads towards a cabin in Grayling, the journey is half the joy. And there's a ritual to it. Stopping at a roadside cherry stand, grabbing pasties for the road, more to come on pasties, and rolling down the windows to breathe in the piney air. Up north, time just moves slower. Afternoons are for hiking sand dunes or watching kids splash in the crystal clear shallows of Torch Lake. Evenings bring bonfires under an explosion of stars, and if you're lucky, you can actually glimpse the northern lights dancing on the horizon. So a trip to Mackinac Island is actually like stepping back in time. There are no cars, just horse hooves and bicycle bells. The sweet aroma of freshly made fudge trailing out of pretty much each and every shop. And yes, you will carry a box of that fudge home, absolutely. Ask anyone who's moved away, just having the ability to drive just a few hours and be surrounded by pristine lakes, dense forests, starlit skies is something you're gonna fiercely miss if you move out of Michigan. As one nostalgic ex-Michigander put it, outside of Michigan, seeing natural wonders like ours becomes something on your bucket list rather than your regular weekend. Going up north isn't just a trip, it's a feeling of freedom and peace that will call you back time and time again, no matter how far you roam. Number 3 are spectacular fall colors. Okay, when autumn arrives in Michigan, it is pure magic, and we actually put out maps of that every year, so subscribe to the channel so you'll get notified what dates are going to be the best viewing along, let's say, the Tunnel of Trees or M22 up north or closer to Grand Rapids or closer to Metro Detroit. The heat of the summer starts fading and our forest explodes into a blaze of reds and oranges and golds, and you're going to find yourself planning Sunday drives just to soak it all in. Cruising Hines Drive or heading out to the Irish Hills to see the rolling woods blanketed in color. Folks in other states think that they know fall, but as any Michigander will tell you, yeah, these fall colors are nice, but have you been to the Upper Peninsula? It's true. Take a trip up to the UP in early October and you're going to witness hills of hardwood so vividly hued, it's like a postcard come to life. Even in the southeast Michigan, places like Kensington or Addison Oaks really becomes a painter's palette of autumn beauty. The crisp air, the crunch of the leaves underfoot, the perfect sweater weather temperature, it's just all part of the season and the vibe. We have cherished traditions to go with it too. Hay rides to pumpkin patches, getting lost in corn mazes and picking apples by the bushel, and of course nothing caps off a fall day better than a cup of hot cider around a crackling bonfire. And there's a reason many are going to tell you that fall is Michigan's best season. The combination of natural beauty and the cozy fun is just unbeatable. Move away and you're going to find yourself nostalgically scrolling through photos of Michigan maples blazing in October, wondering if any other place can ever have as much autumnal beauty. Number 4, cider mills and donuts. Okay, so fall in Michigan isn't just about the pretty leaves, it's also about the annual pilgrimage to the cider mill. And we have more cider mills than any other state in the US except New York. They literally have only 3 more than us. So, okay, New York, you're winning, but are you winning? Are you? Really? Okay, so come September, October, we flock to local cider mills like Yates in Rochester Hills or the Franklin Cider Mill over in Franklin, ready to stand in long lines that winds under oak trees. And why do we do it? What do we endure this for? For the heavenly cider donuts and the fresh pressed apple cider, of course. And as one humorous local observer noted, Michigan cider mill donuts are the reason we endure all this seasonal chaos. The glorious deep-fried rings of heaven could perhaps be the unofficial state pastry. And it's not an exaggeration, guys. Like, bite into the warm cinnamon sugar donut, ideally within seconds of it coming off the fryer, wash it down with a cold cup of sweet cider, and you are tasting pure Michigan autumn. And a lot of families in the area make a day of it enjoying hay rides and apple picking in the orchards and browsing bins of pumpkins and petting the farm animals at the petting farms. And kids might complain about the bees buzzing around the cider press, but that's just part of the authentic experience. Like, I remember that growing up, especially going to the Franklin Cider Mill. If you move away, good luck at finding anything that compares. Out-of-staters might ask, like, what's the big deal about a donut? But they haven't experienced our donuts. And they definitely haven't felt the simple joy of gathering with friends on a chilly morning, hands warmed by steamy cider, breathing in that donut-y, spicy aroma that signals fall has officially arrived. It is a Michigan rite of passage, and trust me, you're gonna miss it fiercely the first time autumn rolls around and there's no cider mill in sight. Also, scope out our blog post on the top 10 cider mills in Metro Detroit ranked, and I'm gonna link that in the description. And I did a YouTube video on that too here. Oh my gosh, look at me in a suit. Get it, young Mike, get it. Number 5, long, warm Michigan summers and frankly, late sunsets. So there's a certain vibe to Michigan summer that is just hard to replicate anywhere else in the United States. It's like a whole state comes alive after a long winter nap. Suddenly, every weekend is filled with outdoor concerts and art fairs and barbecues and lake days. The temperatures hit that sweet spot of not too hot and not too cold, which makes it perfect for spending all day and all night outside. One of the first things you notice when you leave Michigan is how much you miss these extra long summer days. And thanks to our position on the western edge of the Eastern time zone, in June and July, the daylight lingers well past 9:30. And how great was it to get out of work at 5 and you still have like 4 or 5 hours of sunshine to hit the park or take an evening stroll or go for a run. And we take full advantage of this, like grilling in the backyard with family, catching fireflies on the lawn, or heading to a Tigers game at Comerica Park and watching the sky turn violet over the Detroit skyline. About the 7th inning stretch, right around there. So summer in Metro Detroit also means outdoor festivals every weekend, from the Movement Electronic Festival in Detroit's Hart Plaza, and if you love electronic music or techno music, this is the one to go to Arts Beats and Eats over in Royal Oak, or the Gentle Strum of Musicians at Ann Arbor Summer Festivals. And I will totally beleaguer the simple pleasures that Michigan has, like a creamy scoop of Hudsonville or you know what? I like using the word beleaguered. I do. I did not use it as appropriately or as well. So let's try that one more time, will we? Let's not beleaguer the fact that we've got some simple pleasures here in Michigan, like a creamy scoop of Hudsonville or Stroh's ice cream on a hot afternoon, Superman flavor, of course, because that's the Michigan flavor, running through sprinklers as a kid, or enjoying a beach bonfire on the shore of Lake St. Clair's. When you move away, these carefree Michigan summer moments become the stuff of dreams. Like, you find yourself saying, it's a dry heat in some of the other states. but secretly longing for that humid, lazy Michigan evening where the chirp of crickets and the glow of fireflies signal that all is right with the world. Number 6, Coney dogs. Now this is a Detroit classic, especially at 2 a.m. Now if you've stumbled into Lafayette or American Coney Island downtown Detroit after a late night show or a game, you know that a proper Detroit Coney dog isn't just food or comfort, it's tradition, and it's a point of pride. If you leave Michigan and try ordering a Coney dog somewhere else, you're likely to get like a blank stare, or worse, like a really bad imitation. It is a rude awakening when you realize that not everyone knows what a Coney is. As one Detroit expat famously lamented, "What do you mean you don't have Coney dogs?" A true Coney is a natural casing hot dog in a soft bun smothered in a meaty chili, mustard, and a pile of uncooked onions. Simple, yeah? I mean, easy to replicate. You'd think so, but no. There is something about the way we do it here, and maybe it's our specific style of chili, or the ambiance of those old school diners with the faded checkered floors and Tiger's memorabilia on the walls. Coneys taste like childhood memories of downtown trips, like late night laughs with friends, like Detroit itself. They're so beloved that the 2 adjacent rival Coney Island restaurants in Detroit have a friendly feud that's lasted literally decades, and everyone has a favorite. They're either fiercely loyal to Lafayette or they're fiercely loyal to American Coney Island. Now beyond downtown, almost every Metro Detroit suburb has its own Coney Island diner, ready to serve up a 2-on-1, which is 2 Coney dogs on one plate, pretty much any time of the day. Some of them are 24 hours. It's quick, unpretentious, and it hits the spot every time. People that move out of Michigan distinctly missed that comfort food. The first time you crave a Coney Island at 2 a.m. and realize that you are hundreds of miles away from a place that understands you, now that's when it truly hits. You're not in Detroit anymore. Number 7, Detroit style pizza, which are corner pieces with the caramelized crust. Oh, and the extra sauce they do. Okay, so outside of Michigan, people might think pizza comes from just 2 places, like New York or Chicago for a deep dish. But every Detroiter knows that there is a third and best style that rules our hearts and our stomachs, which is the mighty Detroit style pizza. Born in the 1940s at Buddy's Rendezvous over on 6 Mile, this is the pizza that proves that square can beat round every day of the week. A proper Detroit style pizza is rectangular, it's thick, and it's irresistibly crispy at the edges. It's baked in a sheet pan. It's a tradition going back to when Buddy's repurposed auto part trays to actually cook the pizza in, which gives it a high, crunchy crust. The dough inside stays airy and soft, but the real magic is what happens on the perimeter. Brick cheese spread all the way to the edges, caramelizing into that golden, glorious Frisco crust. Toppings, pepperoni, classic, get layered under the cheese, and the tomato sauce is spooned in racing strips on top of the pizza. It's a quirkily inverted order that somehow makes every bite perfect. The result is a pizza that's hearty, yet fluffy, with a cheesy, slightly charred edge that you might just fight your friends over. When you move away, you'll regale new friends with the taste of this pizza they just have to try. And sure, Detroit style pizza has been having its own moment and popping up on menus across the country, but trust us, it's just not the same as grabbing a pie from the original Buddy's or running by Louie's in Hazel Park. Oh, that place is so good. So from Green Lantern, it's got several locations in the Alibi in Troy. The joy of that first corner piece with its crunchy edge and molten cheese is a taste of home that just can't be duplicated. You'll miss the unique pride we often feel about our pizza, often schooling out-of-staters that yes, Detroit has its own style and it's dang good. Because leaving Michigan, you realize that elsewhere pizza is literally just pizza. It's just something to eat and get through. But here it's a culture, and it's actually so much of a culture. I was in Austin a couple years ago, and there is a pizza truck called 313. I went right up to it, and sure enough, those are some old school Detroiters that brought that style to Austin. That's the best out of Michigan Detroit style pizza I've ever had. Actually, it's the only good one I've ever had. Number 8, Vernors, Faygo, and Better Made. Michigan snack aisle stars. Leave Michigan, and suddenly your favorite corner store staples become actually really hard to find treasures. Like take Vernors, for example. So that sweet, spicy ginger ale that grandma swore would cure like any stomachache, actually cure anything, like literally rub Vernors on anything. You got a burn? Rub Vernors on it. Got a cut? Rub Vernors on it. It's not just any ginger ale. It's literally the oldest soda in America, brewed in Detroit since 1866. And it has a bite and vanilla sweetness to it that no other ginger ale drink can match. Growing up, a scoop of vanilla ice cream dumped in a tall glass of Vernors, which is the famous Boston Cooler. I don't know why they call it a Boston Cooler because Detroit did it best, was pure summer bliss. If you got the sniffles, mom handed you a glass of Vernors and some saltines. Moving away, you quickly learned you just can't find a better ginger ale than Vernors, and nothing is the same when you're sick. Then there's Faygo. Oh, Faygo. Red pop, rock and rye, orange, grape, you name it, the flavors of every Michigan childhood. And you might chuckle remembering spraying Faygo at a birthday party or hearing it celebrated in insane clown posse song. And yes, that is a thing. That is a thing. I will say that's very X-rated, well, not X-rated, but very deep R-rated. I would definitely not play ICP in front of any children. Do not do that under the age of like 30. Okay, so outside Michigan, don't bother to look for it on tap or in restaurants. Faygo won't be on the menu anywhere ever. And what about our beloved Better Made potato chips? Good luck finding those perfectly crisp, just salty enough chips that have been made in Detroit since 1930. No barbecue chip elsewhere will ever satisfy the way a Better Made sweet barbecue or those red hot chips did during a picnic at Belle. And I've seen and eaten Better Made chocolate dipped potato chips, and those are just delightful. Like, you can get them in the tins, it's really nice. Together, these snacks and sips are more than just junk food, they're just part of Michigan's DNA. They taste like Tigers games, like family reunions at the park, like childhood road trips with a 24-pack of Faygo in the trunk. Tip of the hat to ICP again. Number 9, Pasties and Mackinac Island fudge, which are Michigan's comfort foods. Okay, so some of Michigan's most soul-comforting foods come from our rich regional heritage, and you're gonna be surprised how much you crave them when you're not here. So pasties, pronounced pasties, not to be confused with the dessert treat, are a great example. So these hearty, handheld meat and vegetable pies were brought over by Cornish miners in the 1800s, finding a new home in our Upper Peninsula. In the UP, every mom and pop bakery has their own secret pasty recipe. Flaky golden crust encasing diced beef, potatoes, rutabaga, onions, maybe a dollop of gravy or some ketchup on top, depending on your style or tradition. Downstate, we savored them on the trips up north because nothing warms you up on a chilly day like a hot pasty, and nothing says UP road trip pit stop like grabbing a couple from a roadside stand. And if you're downstate and you're craving one, as I do from time to time, scope out Barb's Pasties in Clawson. It's literally the only place to go for pasties, in my own humble opinion. Now, when you go, get one for there, but then get 5 more to go for the road. Now pair that savory memory with something else, sweet Mackinac Island fudge on the other end of the spectrum. So visit Mackinac in the summer and you cannot escape the scent. That sugary, cocoa-laced aroma wafting out of literally every other shop on Main Street. As confectioners paddle molten fudge on marble slabs, we jokingly call ourselves fudgies when we're touring up there, by the way, because we're below the bridge. Well, and we also call ourselves trolls. But let's face it, we're all fudgies for that rich, creamy slice of heaven. With the rich chocolate, maple, peanut butter, whatever flavor that you want, it's synonymous with summer vacation in Michigan. And when you leave the state, you're gonna find neither a pasty or fudge at hand that easily. And if you do stumble across a pasty out somewhere else, it likely won't hold a candle to a real Youper one. And you'll probably become an accidental ambassador explaining what it is in detail, hopefully not with a raised voice. And as for fudge, you might order some online to satisfy the craving, but it's just not the same taste. It's not the same experience of watching it get made, put in the box, and then you eat it fresh right there. So one friend who moved away confessed that not being able to get authentic Mackinac Island fudge whenever they wanted was a real bummer. And brace yourself, you won't be able to get fudge from Mackinac Island anymore. So these humble delights, which is a miner's meat pie and a vacationer's sweet treat, are gonna tug at your heart. Number 10, Michigan craft brews and winery weekends. Like, we do have our own amazing wineries here in Michigan. So if you've lived in Southeast Michigan or anywhere in the state really, during the past couple decades, you've witnessed the explosion of Michigan craft beer. Just that scene has gone out of control, which is great. From local microbrews that go real small to beer festival, Michiganders take their brews pretty seriously, and you don't realize how spoiled you are until you move out of state. The state's brimming with outstanding breweries, like Detroit's own Atwater Brewery serving up a vanilla Java Porter, Ann Arbor's Ann Arbor Brewing, or nearby Ypsilanti's Frog Island, and South Lyons, there's a small one, Witch's Hat Brewery, and of course, you got the big names that put us on the craft beer map, like Belle's and Founders. In fact, Michigan has so many great breweries that Grand Rapids earned the title Beer City USA, and rightly so. So we have IPAs that win national awards like the Belle's Two-Hearted Ale, which tops all lists, rich stouts like Founders KBS that people trade like treasures, and refreshing wheat ales like an Oberon that signals kind of the start of summer. You know, when Oberon release day hits in March, it's like a statewide holiday. It's something you might not fully appreciate until you're in a place that doesn't mark the seasons by which beer you drink as it becomes available. So leaving Michigan, you might find yourself becoming a bit of a beer snob because there's nothing else that tastes quite like home like a craft beer. Like one former Michigander joked that after leaving, they'd knock back a bottle of Oberon with a look in their eye that says, "This is real beer." While the locals' light lagers are the sweat off your back, it's a cheeky way to saying our beer quality is top notch. And it is. And it's not just beer. Southeastern Michigan is a short drive from some lovely winery regions too. Remember those summer weekends touring the Leelanau Peninsula or Old Mission Peninsula wineries near Traverse City? Sipping a Michigan cherry or a crisp Riesling with a view of the vineyards and Lake Michigan? Amazing. Even closer to Metro Detroit, a trip to the wineries in Jackson or up towards the Thumb region offer a really perfect just one day or same day escape. The thing is, Michigan's climate and culture creates a really unique craft beverage community, and people that have left ache for a pint of locally brewed stout or a bottle of Chateau Grand Traverse Late Harvest Riesling shared with friends on the porch. So next time you're home, do yourself a favor, hit up a brewery or two, and there's seemingly one in every town, and raise a glass to pure Michigan. And you'll carry those refined Midwestern beer tastes with you, fortunately or unfortunately, wherever you go. Now, before we get to number 11, please, if you haven't, I would be so grateful if you'd hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. It's a good opportunity to do it right here, right between 10 and 11. That's a good number. Yeah. Okay, on with the show. Number 11, Detroit sports pride. Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, and Pistons too. Being a sports fan of Metro Detroit is not for the faint of heart. It's for the passionate, the loyal, and occasionally the several decades long suffering. But it bonds us, and when I'm out of state, I regularly see like Lions shirts and everything, and I ask people, you from Michigan? They're like, yeah, I really want to go to a game. Because here in Michigan, we grew up in the shadows of professional sports legend. The roaring crowds at Ford Field, hoping that this year might finally be the Lions' year. Summer nights at Comerica Park, watching the Tigers under the lights. Winters at LCA where the winged wheel Red Wings banners hang high, and the echoes of the Pistons' bad boys lure from the Palace days. Oh my gosh, and I remember that. So they were back, winners, right? So they won 2 years in a row. That second year they won the championship, that was on my birthday. It was a good birthday. I think it was like 11 or 12. Anyway, you quickly realize that the camaraderie of Detroit sports is something truly special. I mean, other cities do have some fair weather fans, but are they Detroit fans? No. We are ride or die. After all, you don't know pain unless you grew up a Lions fan. And that tongue-in-cheek is painfully true, and yet every fall, we don our Honolulu blue and our silver and cheer with eternal optimism and, you know, some humor, because you gotta laugh. I mean, every year, it seems like we're inching closer now, but we just never quite get there. So it's a shared experience that outsiders just don't quite get. So Sundays at a bar in a faraway city, you might find yourself seeking fellow Michiganders just by spotting the Old English G on a cap or the Lions logo giving a nod of understanding. You'll miss that collective groan and, so horrible, and commiseration after a tough loss. And just as much, you're gonna miss the jubilation of a big win when you can celebrate with literally anyone on the street in Detroit, because chances are they're just as invested. Think about the goosebumps of singing Don't Stop Believin' at a Red Wings playoff game, born and raised in South Detroit, along with 20,000 other fans. And there is no South Detroit, by the way. Detroit earned the nickname Hockey Town for a reason. Our Red Wings' 11 Stanley Cups and decades-long playoff streak has made sure of that. And when Stevie Yzerman lifted that cup, you bet it felt like the whole state was celebrating. The Tigers, with their history at Tiger Stadium and now at Comerica Park, give us summers of hope and that unforgettable 1984 and 2006 magic. The Pistons brought us pride with championships in 89, 90, and 2004, and every Michigander whose move away will tell you they still chant Detroit basketball in their heads whenever they see an NBA game on TV. The rituals, Thanksgiving Day football at Grandma's with the Lions, win or lose, but still watch them. You gotta watch them. Octopus throwing on the ice at a Red Wings playoff game, and we have some weird traditions, you know, just let it be. Or high-fiving strangers downtown after a no-hitter. That's part of our identity, by the way. When you're far from Michigan, you miss that electric buzz. And outside of Michigan, there's just not that electric buzz on game days, because here, sports aren't just entertainment, they're the glue that ties communities together. And through the ups and the downs, being a Detroit sports fan builds character and an unbreakable connection to home. Number 12, college football Saturdays. I'm talking U of M versus MSU and the Maize and Blue mania. I might as well talk about CMU, Central Michigan University, and Western Michigan University. Same rivalry. I love these rivalries. They're so good. Okay, if you've never experienced a college football Saturday in Michigan, you've missed out on one of the state's most vibrant traditions. Like in Southeast Michigan, Ann Arbor transforms into a sea of Maize and Blues on fall Saturdays as over 100,000 fans converge on the Big House. And yes, that's the largest college stadium in the United States with a capacity of over 107,000 seats to cheer on the Wolverines. The energy is palpable, the echo of the marching band's drumline as you walk down Hoover Street, the smell of the sizzling bratwurst wafting from tailgate grills, the chant of Go Blue rising up from pretty much every corner. Over in East Lansing, Spartan fans counter with their own green and white pride, partying from dawn in cedar-shaded tailgate lots and shouting Go Green, Go White with equal fervor. The rivalry between the University of Michigan and Michigan State is the stuff of legends. Like, it divides households and friendships and family, but it's all in good fun. So you'll see those house divided flags come out in the fall and you know exactly what it means. When you're in Michigan, this rivalry feels huge, all important, and you plan your whole autumn around these games, especially that game, like one Saturday when the two Titans clash for state bragging rights. When you move away, something funny happens. Like you mentioned U of M versus MSU, and you realize folks elsewhere just don't quite care. They just don't get it. It's like almost offensive at first. Like, weird that nobody cares whether my alma mater or the team I root for is U of M or MSU. Like, that's weird that nobody cares about that, because back at home, that game could determine who owes who a year's worth of teasing rights. And the truth is, you know just how real Michigan versus Michigan State feud gets. Everything else is truly just child's play by comparison. And beyond the rivalry, there's the overall spectacle of college football culture that you just ache for. The crisp fall mornings, driving to a campus, flags flying from cars, students decked out in face paint and quirky costumes, and the entire state turning in at noon for the kickoff. Ann Arbor's campus is buzzing after a big win, with strangers high-fiving on State Street or East Lansing Albert Avenue overflowing with celebrations. Even if you weren't a huge sports person, chances are you got swept up in it at some point, and maybe you found yourself in the big house singing the victors after a touchdown, or tailgating with friends in L, even if you barely follow football. It's just what we do here. So outside of Michigan, Saturdays might just be for like errands or relaxing or gardening, and you think, but where's the excitement? Where's the college football frenzy? It's a void that's hard to fill. So whether you hail from Spartan country or bleed maize and blue, you'll miss those Saturday rituals and the playful rivalry that made autumn so exciting in the Mitten State. And for the love of love, don't ever tell either Michigan or Michigan State fans that you went to Ohio State, which is not the Ohio State, by the way. I will say this, the enemy of my enemy is my friend has never been more true than Michigan and Michigan State fans when they encounter an Ohio State fan. 13, Ann Arbor's fair and festival summers. Ann Arbor might be best known for the University of Michigan and their medical centers, but if you ask anyone who's lived there or nearby, the arts and culture scene in this town is just second to none in the entire US. Like every July, just when the summer hits its peak, Ann Arbor throws one of the biggest art festivals in the country, the Ann Arbor Art Fair. So for 4 days, over 500,000 people filled the downtown streets that shut down and filled with artists and music and stages and food stalls. And this is not a small town fair. It's actually 3 huge juried art fairs rolled into one, drawing nearly 500,000 attendees over a long weekend. I mean, imagine 30 city blocks filled with art of every kind, like paintings, sculptures, hand-blown glass, jewelry, you name it. And people are shoulder to shoulder, all in awe of the creativity on display. So if you grew up in Southeast Michigan, chances are you braved the art fair, sweating under the sun, probably with a lemonade in hand, marveling at metal sculptures one moment and then a chalk artist's work the next. Leaving Michigan, you remember those art fair days pretty fondly, and the sound of street musicians on every corner, the delicious smell of roasted almonds and funnel cakes mixing with hot asphalt, and the thrill of finding that perfect piece of art to take home. I've taken several from the Ann Arbor Art Fair. But Ann Arbor's cultural charm isn't just one weekend a year. The city pulses with activity year-round. The Ann Arbor Summer Festivals bring outdoor concerts and movies all through June, and then there's the Ann Arbor Film Festival. For movie buffs, this is one of the oldest experimental film festivals in all of North America. And countless street fairs, from Hash Bash in early spring to Festifools, which is a quirky, giant puppet parade that delights kids and adults alike. Strolling Main Street anytime, you might catch a sidewalk chalk drawing or an open-air jazz performance, and the bookshops and cafes, a lazy afternoon at the iconic Literati bookstore, or people watching from Window Suite over at Sweetwater's Coffee is an experience to savor. I've talked to people that have moved away from Michigan that miss how Ann Arbor blends small-town warmth with big city culture, and maybe your new city has some art events, but does it literally transform into an art bazaar once a year? Probably not. It's not just Ann Arbor either. Southeast Michigan boasts gems like the Detroit Jazz Festival, which is the largest free jazz festival in the world, every Labor Day weekend downtown, and Arts Beats and Eats in Royal Oak. And then there are the smaller ones like Milford Memories or Rochester Arts and Apples. The region's festival culture runs deep. So if you find yourself far from Michigan come summer, don't be surprised if you feel a little pang of longing mid-July thinking of Ann Arbor's bustling streets, the vibrant murals, and the sounds of local bands playing. It really is a one-of-a-kind experience and atmosphere that's so hard to replicate, and no cities that I know of really have. Number 14, Motown, which is the sound that changed the world. Hands down, it really is. Like, no matter where you go, when you hear the opening bass line of My Girl, or the smooth harmony of Ain't No Mountain High Enough, you can't help but kind of swell with pride knowing that that music history was made in Detroit. So the Motown sound is part of Michigan's soul, literally. In the 60s, a little house on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, which is now called Hitsville, USA, churned out literally hit after hit after hit, giving us legends like Marvin Gaye, the Supremes, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson and the Bandits, the Temptations. Those infectious melodies and grooving bass lines were not just popular, they broke barriers and brought people together. When you leave Michigan, you find that people absolutely love Motown everywhere. but only we feel truly that special ownership and that pride and connection to it. And after all, it was in Detroit that soul music first saw the light of day. We grew up maybe taking it a little bit for granted, like the oldies radio always had a Motown jam playing. School field trips went to the Motown Museum, where you stood in an actual studio that was used by Smokey Robinson or the Temptations. Maybe even clapping your hands and hearing that signature echo. If you're lucky, you caught one of Motown's greats at a local concert. Like, remember when the Four Tops and the Temptations would do those reunion shows at Pine Knob? Like, the sound of Motown is the sound of home. It's singing along to Heat Wave at a wedding, or dancing in your kitchen to Uptight, Everything's Alright. Stepping outside Michigan, and sure, you're gonna meet some Motown fans, but it's just not quite the same as where it all began, here in Michigan, here in Detroit. And we carry that pride with us, knowing that Barry Gordon's hit factory in Detroit changed music forever. And let's not forget, Detroit's music legacy does not stop at Motown. More on that in a minute. But whenever a Motown song comes on, people from Michigan catch themselves saying, "That's from my home state." Like, it's a little reflex of pride. Even if you didn't grow up in the Motown era, the influence is still all around you in Michigan. From high school choirs singing Motown melodies to the annual Motown Mania shows. Move away and you might be startled to realize not every place has that. So you crank up a song like Dance in the Street or Cloud 9 by the Temptations, and you're gonna explain to your new friends how it was basically Detroit's anthem, a song so powerful it became a civil rights era soundtrack. Because all of the cultural contributions of Michigan, Motown stands tall. It's our groove, and it's our gift to the world, and something we miss deeply and brag about often when we are far from the Motor City. Number 15, and we're talking about music again, guys, from Eminem to the birthplace of techno. So Detroit's musical influence did not stop in the 60s. It kept evolving, and if you grew up in Southeast Michigan, you've been surrounded by the sounds of those evolutions. So fast forward a few decades from Motown's heyday, and the city was carving out a new musical identity, the birthplace of techno. In the 80s, four guys from Belleville, which is just outside Detroit, Juan Atkins, Derek May, and Kevin Saunderson, often called the Belleville Three, and Eddie Fowlkes, pioneered an entirely new genre of electronic music that would eventually take over the European clubs, specifically the German clubs, and spawn countless subgenres. And yes, techno was invented in Detroit. That is not up for dispute. Though sometimes it feels like Berlin or Ibiza gets the credit, but we know the truth. Those beats echoed in our city first. If you've ever spent a Memorial Day weekend at Detroit's Movement Electronic Music Festival, formerly known as DEMF, the Detroit Electronic Music Festival, back when Carl Craig did it, at Hart Plaza, I was there actually, you know the pride of dancing with thousands of new friends to world-class DJs, and they literally come in from all over the world thinking this all started here. And that's something that a couple past Detroiters brought up that they missed when they're gone. Not every city has techno roots or any sort of music roots that deep that a festival draws pilgrims from around the globe. And yes, the founder of DEMF still headlines. Carl Craig is still there each and every year. And then there's the hip hop and rock side of Detroit. And we're talking about Eminem, the greatest rapper of all time. Of course. And perhaps you remember being a teen when Lose Yourself dropped and suddenly everyone worldwide knew just a little bit about 8 Mile Road. Not kidding, it's famous now, right? Eminem's raw, rapid-fire lyrics told gritty Detroit stories that resonated well beyond Michigan, and we do claim him with pride. I was actually talking to a friend the other day that was like, I've never been to Detroit, but I think I'll go. Do you think I'll see Eminem? I really want to see Eminem. Can I meet Eminem? How do I meet Eminem? Do I go to Mom's Spaghetti and just hang out there all day? I'm like, honey, no. You will never meet Eminem, I'm so sorry. So he put our accent and our struggles on the map in a new way. And when you're out of state and an Eminem song comes on, you might jokingly say, yeah, Em and I go way back. Every Detroiter feels a little personally connected to him. He's our hometown guy. And even if we've only seen him on stage, he's still our hometown guy. And don't forget, rock legends from the area that have come up through the years, like MC5, blasting out proto-punk songs like Kick Out the Jams in the late 60s Detroit, Alice Cooper's theatrical shock rock, Bob Seger's anthems that still fill our dive bar jukeboxes. Night Moves, everybody remember Night Moves? Oh yeah, it basically smells like a Michigan summer night. And later on, you've got Jack White and the White Stripes reviving garage rock in the 2000s with that unmistakable riff from Seven Nation Army, which now reverberates through sports stadiums worldwide. And yes, Jack's from Detroit. Thank you very much. Madonna, of course, is from here too, but so is Kid Rock and George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelic. All in all, Detroit's music scene, whether it's Motown or rock or hip hop or techno, has always punched above its weight. We grew up steeped in it, and sometimes without even realizing how unique that is. Like when you venture out, you'll find other places have music pride too, but it's different. They might have a famous festival or two, or a local hero band. But Detroit is music history. Like people that moved out of Michigan miss the casual ways it's just woven into life back home. And maybe you saw techno DJ at a small Eastern market gig, or you ran into Jack White strumming a guitar over at Third Man Records, which has been known to happen, or you have a cousin who swears that they saw or met Eminem at Meyer once. When you leave, those exciting cultural touchstones are just harder to come by, but you carry that heritage with you, and maybe in your playlist labeled Home Full of Stevie, Seeger, Slim Shady, and some underground techno tracks, a little Michigan soundtrack for wherever you are. Number 16, they don't call Detroit the Motor City for nothing. If you grew up here in Metro Detroit, chances are the auto industry isn't just something in history books, it's literally part of your family history, or at least the backdrop of your daily life. Maybe your grandfather worked the line at the Ford Rouge plant, or your mom did engineering at General Motors, or your neighbor proudly drove a different Big Three car each year thanks to that sweet employee lease deal, also known as PEP vehicles. The auto industry built not only our economy, but our very identity. And there's a special kind of pride in knowing that your hometown put the world on wheels. And we brag rightfully that Henry Ford's assembly line changed manufacturing forever, not just automotive manufacturing, all manufacturing. And we smirk when someone from somewhere else drives by in a car and we say, "You're welcome," under your breath, because odds are that car has a little bit of Detroit in it. In Michigan, it's totally normal to use Ford, GM, and Chrysler in everyday conversation, or refer to buildings by the company logos they sport. The annual Detroit Auto Show, NAIAS, was like a winter holiday. I mean, remember skipping school or work to sneak into Cobo Center and marvel at the newest models and wild concept cars under dazzling lights? I remember doing that in high school. Now, move away and try to explain to someone how the sound of a rumbling V8 or the gleam of a classic 69 Mustang can stir your soul. It's a visceral Michigan thing. And we don't just drive cars, we live cars. Like summer weekends might mean visiting the Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village in Dearborn, where you can see everything from the famous Model T to the actual presidential limo JFK rode in, or riding in a real Model T and feeling that putter that started it all. We host the world's biggest one-day vintage car cruise, the Woodward Dream Cruise, where every August, classic cars take over 16 miles of Woodward Avenue, revving engines and revving the golden era of cruising. And if you're out of state in August, you might catch a vintage Chevy on the road and suddenly feel a little nostalgic for those summer nights watching the chrome and the fins roll by, radio DJs blasting oldies, families camped out on lawn chairs cheering for burnouts. Detroiters also have a bit of an unapologetic swagger about our automotive contribution. As one fun saying goes, we act like we single-handedly invented the automobile. And you're welcome, America. And we know it's only half truth and half joking, but when you leave, you realize that other places just don't get that. They might see cars as just mere transport. We see heritage, innovation, art. So you'll miss the casual car talk, the way everyone back home can identify a make and a model in a heartbeat, or how a new car unveiling is the lead on the local news. Even the sight of the Renaissance Center, GM's global headquarters, dominating Detroit's skyline is a reminder, this is the Motor City. Being away, you're gonna beam with pride whenever you see a Detroit-made car commercial or a news story about a breakthrough at one of the big three. It's in our blood. And if you ever catch yourself on some far-off highway, stuck behind a car going slow in the left lane, and how dare they, you might just find yourself muttering, "Learn to drive, I'm from Detroit." Because we all know Michigan drivers have their own style. Like, I have my own style for sure. I'm a great driver, by the way. No, I'm not, I'm terrible. But bottom line, the auto legacy is a huge piece of home and it stays with you wherever you drive. Number 17, Belle Isle, Detroit's island oasis. In the heart of the city of Detroit, on the Detroit River, between the skyscrapers of downtown and the shoreline of Windsor, Canada, is a little slice of paradise that every Detroiter holds dear, which is Belle Isle. And it's actually not that little. At around 982 acres, Belle Isle is actually larger than New York's Central Park. So this island park has been a cherished retreat for Metro Detroiters and families for literally generations. And I remember as a kid, a trip to Belle Isle might mean an afternoon at the aquarium, which is one of the best aquariums in the world, marveling at the rows of fish. And did you know that the Belle Isle Aquarium is the oldest aquarium in the United States? Or visiting the Anna Scripps Whitcomb Conservatory, where tropical flowers bloom even in the dead of winter. Summers might mean packing a picnic and grilling under one of the willow trees by the river, then biking the loop around the island or climbing on a giant playscape. I do the bike actually from Royal Oak, where I live. I'll bike down to Belle Isle, I'll do the loop, stay at the beach for a while, get something to eat, and then ride back home. Maybe you climb to the top of the old lighthouse on the east end, or just play around a mini golf or an impromptu baseball game in one of the open fields. If you were lucky, you visited the nature center and learned about the wildlife that calls the island home. And of course, one of the simplest pleasures, just parking at the west end by the James Scott Memorial Fountain and gazing out at Detroit's skyline on one side and the shorelines of Canada on the other. And the perspective from Belle Isle is like none other, and I'm talking about the Ambassador Bridge framing the sunset. Freighters chugging by so you can wave at the captain, and the Renaissance Center's mirrored towers catching the evening's light. When you leave Michigan, places like Belle Isle turn almost into storybook memories. Was there really an island park that big and beautiful in my city? Yes, there was. And it's the country's largest city-owned island park, something we're immensely proud of. Number 18, the Henry Ford at Greenfield Village Museums. Time traveling in Dearborn. Where else but Michigan can you step into a museum and see the very vehicle in which President John F. Kennedy was riding when history changed, when he was assassinated? Then walk a few yards and climb aboard the bus where Rosa Parks sparked the Civil Rights Movement. The Henry Ford Museum of America, Innovation Dearborn, it's a long name, is not your average museum. It's a colossal treasury of America's history and ingenuity that can leave anyone, local or visitor, awestruck. We kind of grew up with it right in our backyard, maybe visiting on school field trips or when relatives were in town, sometimes not fully grasping how remarkable it is. Like, this place has 26 million artifacts, from early steam engines to vintage Americana, spread across almost 250 acres. The museum building itself holds everything from the chair Abraham Lincoln was sitting in at Ford's Theater, to the aforementioned JFK presidential limousine, to the Thomas Edison's last breath captured in a vial. And yes, that is actually a thing. It's quirky and profound all at the same time. And then you step outside into Greenfield Village, and suddenly you're in another century, riding in a Model T, watching a blacksmith forge iron, or strolling through the very workshop where the Wright brothers invented the airplane. They actually moved that shop to Greenfield Village. And not only do they have the Wright cycle shop from Ohio, they have Edison's Menlo Park Laboratory from New Jersey to create a living history village. For many of us, Greenfield Village was really our first taste of what life was like in the 1800s. And you might remember the clang of the village bell, or the smell of the coal smoke from the steam train that circles the property, or the sweet taste of the rock candy from the old-timey general store, which they actually make on site. Events like the annual Henry Ford Old Car Festival, or the magical holiday nights when the whole village glows with lanterns and festive decor, became beloved traditions. Move away from Michigan, and you're going to discover pretty quick that not many places have anything quite like this. Museums elsewhere are cool. I've been to a ton of them, including the museum in London. But we have a place where you can literally immerse yourself in history for a day and then hop on an actual Ford Model T for a breezy ride around the village green. It's a history nerd's dream and a kid's playground, kind of all in one. And even if you weren't a history buff, you felt the impact of seeing, like, the bus where Rosa Parks took her stand, or rather kept her seat, because you can sit on that very bus at the Henry Ford Museum and feel the gravity of that moment. Those experiences just stick with you. All right, number 19, quirky Michigan slang and traditions. Okay, so if you ever find yourself in another state pointing to the palm of your right hand to show someone where you're from, only to get a confused look, that's when you know you aren't in Kansas anymore, or you aren't in Michigan anymore. Michigan has its own language and customs, and some people I've talked to miss them when they leave because they get misunderstood. So let's start with the classics. We say pop when others say soda. It's such an innocent little word, yet outside the Midwest or outside Michigan and basically Ohio, it's like you're speaking Klingon. You might get a chuckle or somebody making fun of you. Pop, what are you, from the 1950s? But hey, that's what we call it, and we're gonna stand by it. In fact, some of us have experienced the side eye from non-Michiganders when we insist on calling it pop, and we're fighting them because they're either calling it soda or Coke. What kind of Coke? Sprite. Makes no sense to me. And then there's the Michigan hand map. Need to explain where your hometown is? Easy. Hold up your right hand and fingers together, thumb out. There's the Lower Peninsula. Point with your left index finger somewhere on your palm, and voila, it's instantly a map. It's second nature to us. But there's also a second way to do the map. Boom, Upper Peninsula. Did and done. But try doing that in, let's say, Texas, and people are gonna like scratch their heads like, no one will know what you're even talking about. And then in Michigan, we've got some beloved regional nicknames. Like if you're from the UP, you're a Youper. And you're proud of it. You're like super proud of it. Only 8% of Michigan's population lives in the UP, but y'all are Youpers. Now the rest of us down the Lower Peninsula, we're trolls. Literally, because we live below the bridge. We live under the Mackinac Bridge. And it's kind of a playful way that Michiganders give love to each other. Now, we also know what a fudgy is, which is a tourist up north named for the tendency to buy tons of Mackinac Island fudge. And we probably use the term up north enough that it deserves its own entity, and we covered that. Then there are little sayings like spendy, meaning expensive, or calling sneakers tennis shoes, regardless of the sport. Doesn't matter what the sport is. What kind of tennis shoes do you have? I have these running shoes, right? And of course, one might slip out a, oh, that little noise we make when we bump into somebody or reach for something at the same time. It's a Midwestern phenomenon that Michiganders have perfected. And then of course, we all know what a Michigan left is, and that it isn't a boxing move. I've actually had somebody ask me that if that's what that is. It's just a tricky maneuver where you turn right to go left, right? Outsiders find it bizarre, but it's everyday for us. And we Michiganders understand that Devil's Night refers to October 30th and has a whole lore around it. Although we rebranded it Angel's Night to try to stop the mischief or just give it like a better look, it's still Devil's Night to me. And that Party Stores in Michigan is not where you buy balloons and streamers for parties. It's actually a convenience or liquor store that is dotting corners all over Metro Detroit. So these little quirks are the fabric of life in Michigan. They bind us as a shared experience. And when you run into another ex-Michigander out of state, the moment one of you says pop or flashes the hand map, there's this instant connection with almost giddy excitement. Oh my gosh, you're from Michigan too? That's so cool. We're in Michigan. I'm from here. You're from here. Blah, 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 blah. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about the Michigan goodbye, which is very different from the Irish goodbye. The Irish goodbye is just like ghosting out the door. The Michigan goodbye starts 2 to 3 hours before you actually leave. We're sitting on the couch at a friend's house or whatever that looks like, and you say, oh, and then you go to stand up to leave. But then you have to proceed to spend 10 to 15 minutes saying bye to each individual person there before you're allowed to go. True story. If you want to be home at 10 and you live 20 minutes away, you start saying goodbye at 6:30. That's a Michigan thing. So number 20, driving in Michigan. And where do we even start? It's an adventure and a skill set all at the same time. So there are things that we do as Michiganders on roads. Once you leave the state, you realize are just totally unique, and weirdly enough, you might even miss them, or at least laugh about them, or laugh at yourself about them when you're gone. Top of the list, the infamous Michigan left. If you grew up around Metro Detroit, you know the drill. Instead of a left turn at many of the big intersections, you go straight through, then make a U-turn at the designated medium, and then double back and make a right. Is it efficient? Debatable, probably not. But it is confusing to outer-staters. Yes, absolutely. Try pulling a Michigan left in another state and you might get honked at or worse, like ticketed, literally. As one of my friends that used to live here noted, you might have those moves mastered here, but cross state lines and pulling a stunt like that could result in a pretty big ticket or even a side swipe of your passenger mirror. And sometimes we forget that the whole country doesn't operate like our personal stretch of Woodward or Gratiot. Now let's talk potholes. And yes, this is Michigan's unofficial state craters. Like, we complain endlessly about them. Endlessly, because we've all popped a tire or two, or actually all four in the spring, aka pothole season. It's like the tulips come up and the potholes come up. But leave Michigan and the road suddenly feels smooth. And that's no fun. What's the fun of a smooth road? I mean, literally just crossing into Ohio and they feel suspiciously smooth. Like, part of you almost misses the vigilance, the defensive driving, or the art of swerving around a beastly pothole on 94, knowing exactly which lane on your daily commute to avoid because of that one axle buster that just never seems to get fixed. Like, they just keep dumping stuff into it, but the hole's still there. It's like a video game that we didn't ask to play, but we've had to master nonetheless. And then there's winter driving. Michiganders wear it as a badge of honor that we can handle what others just fear. Like, literally fear. A little snow? Nothing. Doesn't matter. We chuckle at the rest of the country shutting down, literally shutting down schools and everything, stores and everything, when they're getting an inch of snow. But we're out here grinding through blizzards to get to work. We probably shouldn't be, but again, that's just part of being Michigan tough. And still, you know you've said it or heard it. It's just snow. Learn how to drive, people. Not that big of a deal. And then there's a little bit of exhilaration and a certain amount of pride when you know how to pump your brakes correctly in black ice to get through it, or how to rock your car out of a snowbank to get it unstuck, and how to keep a cool head when all of a sudden lake effect snow suddenly turns the freeway into like Narnia. Like, when you're away and driving in fair climates, you might actually, strange as it might sound, miss the challenge. Or at least you roll your eyes when locals panic at flurries and think, if only they knew. If only they knew what I've driven through. Plus, in Michigan, we have those little unspoken driving customs, like we wave thank you when someone lets us in. Midwest nice does extend to the road. It does. We know how to zipper merge during construction season. Even if some don't, then we get to just rant about them about it. And then, speaking of construction, we joke that Michigan has 2 seasons, winter and construction. And yes, the orange barrels are everywhere come summer, and yes, we complain about them incessantly. But it's part of the rhythm of life. Plotting alternative routes, learning to live with the perpetual projects on I-75 or I-96 or 696. And away from Michigan, summer driving just feels oddly easy, like without constant detours or challenges. And then you reminisce. If this were Michigan, there'd be 3 lanes closed right now out of 4 lanes. Why are there not more lanes closed? Number 21, Michigan holiday traditions. And I'm talking about Vernors and parades and winter cheer. If you've ever found yourself in mid-July craving a bit of Christmas spirit, Michigan's got you covered, guys. We do. We literally celebrate Christmas all year. My Christmas tree is still up. And when you're watching the video, my Christmas tree is still up. I'm talking about Vernors Christmas Wonderland in Frankenmuth. The self-proclaimed world's largest Christmas store is right there, which is Vernors. And this place is like Santa's workshop on steroids. It's open 361 days of year. It's only closed 4 days of the year, overflowing with every ornament and Yuletide knickknack imaginable. But when you live in Michigan, a trip to Vernors is almost like a rite of passage, and maybe a summer detour on the way up north, because who doesn't want to walk through a snowy wonderland, even if it's 85 degrees outside, or a full-blown family outing during the holiday season. And there's something just wonderfully quirky about a place where it's just permanently December 25th. Other states do Christmas only at Christmas time. Super boring. Here, we keep the festive flame alive always year round. And it's true, no other place lets you bask in twinkling lights and carolers, and yes, there are carolers, year round like we do. And in Michigan, our holiday traditions do not end at Vernors. I mean, think about the America's Thanksgiving Day Parade in Detroit. It's one of the country's oldest, largest, and grandest Thanksgiving parades. Started in 1924, which was the same year that Macy's started their parade in New York. And if you grew up around Detroit, you probably have memories of bundling up, and you gotta bundle up that time of year, and heading downtown at the crack of dawn, or watching it on TV in a warm house, to see the giant papier-mâché floats rolling down Woodward Avenue, the marching bands, the clowns tossing candies to the kids, and of course, Santa Claus arriving at the end, ushering in the Christmas season. It's an event that ties generations together. Your grandparents went, your parents went, you went, and maybe you've taken your kids. That Thanksgiving morning might feel a bit emptier without the familiar scenes from Woodward. And before the Thanksgiving Day parade, there's also the turkey trot and a couple of runs that are put on by the parade company. I literally run those every year. So my tradition is running the turkey trot in the drumstick double, then walking over to Iggy's Eggies, grabbing a breakfast burrito or a breakfast sandwich, and then walking just the one more block to Woodward and just watching the parade right there. And then heading home to watch the Lions, of course. And how about cutting down like a real Christmas tree? So Michigan is a top Christmas tree producer. So heading out to a tree farm, hot cocoa in hand of course, to chop or find the perfect pine or fir is a beloved outing for a lot of families. And of course, cue the debates on which side of the tree is the good side that you want to face out when you get it into the car. Or attending holiday nights at Greenfield Village where carolers in period costumes serenade you by kerosene lanterns and fireworks cap off the night. Or ice skating under the giant Christmas tree in Campus Martius Park downtown with the city lights twinkling all around you. Then over to the Detroit Zoo for winter nights. Or smaller holiday shows like the nationally known Bostic family in Garden City. Actually, their show, it's a family with one house that they decorated. It's amazing. It got so popular, the city cut a deal with them to decorate the Eloise Asylum during Christmas instead to cut down on the traffic that was going through a residential street. These are the kinds of warm and fuzzy experiences that get embedded in your heart. And when you're far from Michigan, you might find some good holiday fun, but not every place has it like Michigan does. So if you do have to leave Michigan and you are celebrating the holidays, perhaps your new city tree lighting is cute, but you're sitting there thinking, this is no Campus Martius spectacle, that's for sure. Or their holiday market lacks that certain feeling you get browsing the European-style Christmas market at Detroit's Cadillac Square with a little bit of snow falling. And Michigan winters are cold, yes, but we know how to make them cozy and bright and warm. We embrace the snow with festivals like Tip Up Town for ice fishing. We pack families into the car to drive through elaborate light displays at local parks, and we even have goofy traditions like the Night Lights Christmas Light Show or neighborhood contests for those that have the best light display, which I win, by the way, every single year. Number 22, I'm talking about spending Saturdays at Eastern Market. And Michigan's, farmers market kind of tradition and culture, because we kind of have a thing here about farmers markets. So there's a special kind of Saturday morning hustle in Detroit's historic Eastern Market that once you experience with it, it just kind of stays with you. Like I know that there's that market over in Seattle. I've been to it. It's cute. It is not Eastern Market. Like if you lived in Metro Detroit, odds are you spent at least a few Saturdays wandering around the sheds of Eastern Market, canvas tote in hand, of course, being drawn by the vibrant colors and enticing smells. Like this market isn't some small town affair. It's a massive 6-block public market district that's been operating since 1891, making it one of the largest and oldest in the entire country. And we're talking dozens upon dozens of vendors, including local farmers with tables piled high with just harvested vegetables and fruits, butchers offering everything from cut steaks to the famous Easter Market pickled bologna, flower vendors with buckets of fresh cut blooms, peonies, and sunflowers galore, of course, when they're in season, and artisanal food producers with stands of honey and jams and homemade baked goods that make your mouth just water. Like the sounds of Eastern Market are a melody all of their own. Vendors calling out deals on tomatoes, street musicians strumming guitars or playing saxophones between stalls, children laughing, and neighbors greeting each other enthusiastically everywhere you look. For many of us, it's a weekly ritual. We get up early, the market opens at 7 year round, Find a parking spot amid the bustling streets, maybe grab a hot beignet or a crepe from a food truck as fuel. I like the bacon beignets myself. And then dive into the stalls to stock up for the week. The community vibes are strong. Eastern Market is where suburbanites and city dwellers meet together, where chefs rub elbows with home cooks, all united by the love of good, fresh food. And Eastern Market is not where Michiganders' love of food stops. Like, we have blueberry festivals, we have cherry orchards up north where you can pick your own cherries, and we have a cherry festival up in Traverse City, which is immensely popular. We've got cider mills, as I talked about earlier. We've got roadside sweet corn stands that pop up in late summer and that operate literally on the honor system. Take a dozen years, leave some cash in the box. And let's not forget our farmers markets that are loaded with squash and apples and freshly pressed cider. So when you move to Michigan, grocery shopping isn't the same. It's not just Kroger or not just Meijer or not just Walmart. A lot of towns here in Southeast Michigan, and I'm talking like Northville and Plymouth and Milford and Brighton and Rochester and Royal Oak, all have their own farmers markets that operate most of the year. So like when I go grocery shopping, yeah, okay, I'll get my canned goods and my hard goods like at the Kroger or Meijer or Costco or wherever. But you better believe I'm getting my fresh produce from a farmer. So I'm actually meeting the guy that grew the food. Absolutely. I love those farmers markets. And then number 23, Michiganders have their own kind of unspoken bonds. So there's an unexplainable but very real camaraderie among people from Michigan. And it doesn't matter if you're from the heart of Detroit or a suburb like Sterling Heights or Royal Oak or Birmingham, a college town like Ann Arbor, or a farm community out like Chelsea or Dexter. When you're out in the wider world and you meet somebody from back home, it's like bumping into family. Leave Michigan and you'll experience this. You're at a random party or a work conference or small talking with strangers and someone says they're from Michigan and suddenly the conversation ignites. No way, me too. Whereabouts? Oh, you're from downriver? I grew up in Oakland County. And just like that, you made a connection and a friend. That's the Michigan bond. That's a shared understanding. And maybe it's all the little things we've discussed on the list, from knowing the taste of a proper Coney dog to surviving polar vortex winters that create that kinship, but it's strong. And I've had friends from out of state marvel at how quickly Michiganders will gravitate to each other and start gabbing like old pals once they realize their common origin. One former Michigander described it to me perfectly. If you stumble on another Michigander on your travels, you'll feel like talking to them is a slice of home. And that pretty much sums it up. And part of it is probably the state pride we all have. Michigan isn't just where we live, it's part of who we are, and we wear it proudly, and sometimes literally with our closets full of Detroit versus everybody shirts or baseball caps with the Old English D or the outline of the state. We love pointing out our hometown on a hand map, and we get a kick out of teaching non-Michigan friends how to properly pronounce places like Ypsilanti, which is Ypsilanti, or Sault Ste. Marie. And we do love to share our Michigan knowledge, from explaining why our lakes are the best to insisting that our fall colors top New England's any day of the week and twice on Tuesdays. Number 24, we've got what's called the Midwest Nice, that genuine deep down kindness and hospitality that people in our part of the country are often known for. In Michigan, you feel it everywhere. In a friendly chat with a stranger in the checkout line at Meijer, to the neighbor that snowblows not just their own sidewalk, but yours too, just because. As the way someone will always stop to help if they see you're struggling with a flat tire on the side of the road, or how your elderly next door neighbor never fails to bring over a plate of holiday cookies every December. Actually, my elderly neighbor wouldn't bring me cookies every December. In June, she would bring me a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon. I mean, Linda was amazing. And so I would just literally hold it and I'd rewrap it and give it back to her for her birthday in August, because I don't really drink Pabst Blue Ribbon. I know it's award-winning, there are awards on it, but you know. Michigan nice, right? Michiganders are warm-hearted folks. And when you're outside of Michigan, you kind of come to realize not every place quite has the same flavor of everyday kindness. And not that it's not to say that people elsewhere are not friendly. I mean, of course they can be, but there's a particular blend of nice and humble and helpful that just seems to flourish in the Great Lakes state. We apologize when it's not our fault. The classic, oh, sorry about that, when you barely brush past someone. We hold doors open and we say, excuse me. And even if we think we might inconvenience someone, there's a comfort in knowing that you can strike up a conversation about the weather or the local sports team with just about anyone and be met with a smile. And then number 25 with a bullet has to be said, Michigan will always have your heart. If you leave Michigan for any length of time and you discover an unexpected truth, this place stays with you. And maybe it's the memories of summers on the lake or the taste of fresh cider mill donuts, and maybe it's the character and resilience of the people, and I'm talking about Lions fans with that one. But something embeds itself in your heart and it doesn't let go. You find yourself in idle moments daydreaming about driving down a tree-canopied road in autumn, or hearing Lake Michigan's waves, or tailgating with your buddies before the big game, and you realize that Michigan isn't just where you're from, it's home in the deepest sense. So there's a quote that a friend of mine told me on the phone that I thought was actually really funny. Someone added in here: no matter where you go, your heart will always be here waiting for your ungrateful self to return and swear to never leave Michigan again. Harsh? Maybe. Playful a bit? Definitely, but the sentiment hits home. We sometimes don't know how good we have it until we leave, and all those unique, wonderful things about Michigan that we've talked about collectively create a sense of belonging that's just hard to replicate elsewhere. You can move to the most exciting metropolis or the most beautiful foreign land, and still, when someone asks where you're from, you will proudly say Michigan and feel that tug on you. And so for anybody that's watching, let me know in the comments below what you miss most about Michigan if you moved out of Michigan, what you love the most about Michigan if you're living here. And again, don't forget to like the video and subscribe because I'm going to be dropping new videos each and every week as I always do. Thank you again for coming on this journey with me, and let me know if you're thinking about buying a home or selling a home. I am here and I've got your back in the home buying process. My name is Mike Perna, and thank you again. See you on the next video.